So I'm Amy Peck. I am the founder of EndeavorVR. I'm a consultant for enterprise, working in AR and VR, and really just strategy around go-to-market, development resources, productization, and just helping companies really navigate the landscape of AR and VR. So a lot of you have seen these various industry landscape graphics. This first one was by Tipitat. You see a lot of the same verticals because these are the verticals that are easy for enterprise to get buy-in. It's not just about building a great solution, it's about building a solution that you can sell to enterprise entities. So looking at what the background is of healthcare and entertainment and games, you need data to support whatever solutions you're working on. So I've looked at various stats on how big the VR enterprise market's going to be. It comes down anywhere between 40 and 60%, but the net is that versus consumer, enterprise VR is arguably going to be a larger market moving forward by 2025. So the idea was really just to share with you some of the use cases. There's a lot of companies successfully building enterprise solutions, and so if any of you are looking to build enterprise solutions, this just gives you an overview of what the market appetite is. And the strategy should really be go for the low-hanging fruit and then build from there as this technology evolves and improves and gets better. So healthcare is one of the main verticals that has seen a lot of success with AR and VR. So visualization of a difficult procedure, for example, doctors being able to look at scans of a brain tumor and in virtual reality pull it apart and build a plan of attack before ever even entering the operating room. A medical student being able to stand next to one of the foremost surgeons in the world as he or she performs a particularly rare procedure. Patient care is another big opportunity. I do believe that the insurance companies are going to start to really get behind this, so taking actual patient scans, walking a patient through in either virtual or augmented reality, walking through their actual procedure using their actual scans, so it gives them that level of understanding and comfort on what's happening next. Phobias, I actually share an office with the founder of, now I forgot the name of it, it's Fearless, Tim Guzman, and he actually built their first module was for arachnophobia because he personally has a terrible fear of spiders, and that kind of personal connection with whatever you're building resonates very, very well with buyers in the commercial landscape. Physical therapy, I work with a group who are doing physical therapy for stroke victims. They do a gamified version of all their exercises in virtual reality. That data is then remotely sent to their physical therapist, and their physical therapist can actually monitor them in between appointments. Pain management, again, great success with gamification and pain management for burn victims or people suffering from any kind of chronic pain disorders. Social disorders is another great area. People on the spectrum, people with Asperger's, able to go into a virtual environment, and just with that extra kind of layer of distance between the others in the space, they're able to practice social behaviors that they can then take out into the real world and assimilate with a lot less stress. Industrial military, which also kind of is relevant to automotive. Simulation and training, huge, lots of application, a lot of data to support the efficacy of VR training. The military's been using virtual reality training for decades. Heavy equipment, safety training, driver training, even an assessment tool for people applying for, dangerous jobs. And that kind of dovetails into emergency reflexive response. Being able to put people in an incredibly dangerous situation that you can't replicate in real life and do that over and over and over again so that if they ever are faced with an emergency situation, they react appropriately. Virtual manufacturing, again, being able to iterate on a product over and over again is a huge time saver without ever having to prototype. You can do this in virtual reality, even with remote teams. Again, automotive designers, they're often in 2 or 3 different countries. It's a big challenge for them to design together. This is one way for them to actually work in a virtual environment. And I am going to take a sip of my water now. So these are all verticals that we've seen a number of solutions. It's you could say it's a crowded space, but there's always room for innovation. So with retail, Gap just announced their virtual dressing room. This has been around for a while, but again, it's taken a while for the larger companies to start to take notice. Virtual shopping, endless aisles. There'll be probably fully digital stores. Digital windows, being able to do design of store layouts virtually. There's sort of endless applications. Again, also in real estate, design collaboration, virtual walkthroughs, interior design, being able to look at construction sites virtually before any architectural drawings are even drawn up. Hospitality and travel, destination tours, cultural learning, being able to understand the customs of a country before you visit. Virtual concierge, in-flight experiences. And then with education, I think education is another area that is ripe to be just turned upside down by virtual reality. However, that's going to be a long play. So it takes a long time for schools, especially K through 12, to adopt new technologies. But I see this as really potentially life-changing in helping children learn the way they need to learn and absorb information. So being able to put them in the middle of a historical recreation, replicating science experiments, global museum tours, and then cross-cultural collaboration. There are kids in different countries being able to be in a virtual classroom together has wide-reaching implications. So what do all these have in common? So they all have a history of success. So again, we're going back to, yes, we know that there's some incredible solutions out there for enterprise, but if you want to build a product that you will get buy-in in the enterprise landscape, you need to kind of follow some strategies as you start out. And again, having a history of success and the data to support it. Solve a single problem with scalable features, just like Fearless is doing. They start with arachnophobia and they'll expand to other phobias. Consider the existing workflow. This is very important. If you look at simulation and training, it sits right in between classroom training and practical training. So it's an easy slot in. We're not changing the way people fundamentally work. And then something we didn't really discuss, and it's a topic for another time, but it's something to think about when you're building for enterprise. The middleware piece and the data store integration piece, and looking at your solution as an end-to-end solution. Most enterprise entities, if they're doing training, they have some kind of learning management system. They need that data to support any ROI around whatever they're spending for your solution. So think of sort of the largesse of your solution relative to data and middleware. So the basics. A, avoid the wow trap. What is the wow trap? That's the wow trap, being all things to all people. Build something with passion. Again, it really resonates with buyers if there's some sort of personal connection. If you're a doctor who learned Unity to solve a particular problem, that resonates. C, create a scalable solution backed by D, data. Again, that speaks for itself. And thank you so much.
Awesome.
I didn't cough once, I don't think. All right. I need some more water. Does anyone have any questions?
So what would be an example of like a perfect client that you like to work with?
Someone with money. No, that's not true. I'd like to work with companies that at least have some kind of idea of what problem they're trying to solve. One of the challenges I've found is going into a company and they might have 8 factions of people kind of ferreting away in their little silos. and none of them are talking to each other, and obviously there's sort of an economy of scale of they're bringing all of these goals together. So, if there's some sort of vision, at least we have these 5 ideas, can you help us with developers or solutions that are out there? That's the ideal client, I think.
That's great. Is there a specific industry that you found experience with so far?
I am particularly passionate about education and healthcare, and I do work with a lot of clients working on sim and training because that has the most data to really support, the efficacy.
And there's existing budget.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so much less expensive now because you typically don't have to build this giant buck.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So you said that education was going to take a little bit longer. So what advice do you give your clients that are looking to go in that area?
It's a long play. I think I work with a company, and they're not actually a client, but I think they're a great company. They're called Labster, and they're based in Scandinavia. And they have a really amazing kind of life sciences module, and so that you can do all kinds of different experiments. And then the goal is to expand into, teachers being able to, build their own experience, to actually be a platform. What they did, which was really smart, was they went after government grants. So that is one thing. STEM education in this country is on, everybody's list. It's a very important topic. So in the short term, investors may be a little bit reticent if you're pre-revenue, but you can still get grants to build out solutions, get them into schools, and then to start to prove out your model.
That was just like a fantastic overview. And it's very helpful to understand that you're passionate about education and healthcare. So what's your definition of virtual reality? Is this something that requires headgear? Or where does virtual reality?
Oh, it's actually, that's a very good question because we talk about this a lot. And I don't think anyone's really come up with a term for, it's really all the realities, right? So it's virtual reality, it's augmented reality, it's mixed reality, and it doesn't even end there, right? It's body tracking, eye tracking, haptics. So all of these technologies are going to merge to form all of these different solutions. So even though it's easy to say, I'm a virtual reality specialist, it's frontier technologies, and that's what's exciting is not only how virtual and augmented reality are going to evolve, but then how these other technologies are going to weave in together it's endless.
Hi, Amy. My name is Greg. Thanks very much for the presentation. For your clients to date, what has been, and it may not be a singular thing for clients that you have, but what's the biggest problem that you're facing when you're walking in the door with your clients? Is it they're reading the trades and they day one say, we got to be in virtual reality? Or is it like the sky's the limit kind of thing and you have to really rein them in, to your point earlier about focusing on a specific solution?
That is one of the big problems. One of the other big challenges is getting buy-in from sort of the hierarchical structure of corporate culture. That's something that we battle a lot. I typically work with R&D groups, innovation groups, and they have a certain amount of budget to bubble up different solutions to the proof of concept stage, but then really being able to build out a solution that a company is going to adopt. That is a big leap. And so, you have to have the right development resources, you have to have the right data, and data, I keep saying data, but data, you have to have data to support the solution you've built. That's really one of the most important things. And even as a developer, when I mentioned, looking at how to, your solution fits in with middleware and a data store, that data is also going to be very useful to you as a developer in how you iterate on the product. What are people, how are people interacting in the space? What are they doing? What are they not doing? And that's all going to be valuable information.
Yes, how do you vet your service providers? Because you're going to get your person come in with a solution. It's going to be sold to the C-level. Hey, we can do this. Then you've got to turn around and find service providers who'll deliver on time, which is tricky in a new technology.
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of reasons why they can't get it done on time, and costs get out of control. So how do you present that to your
That's another very good question. Without being too kitschy, I immerse myself in the space. I mean, I work out of Upload Collective, so that's a great start. There's a lot of resources there. There are a lot of great developers who are building there. And I go to all the events and I meet as many developers as I can, and I try and be as public as I can. I try and be out meeting developers and finding out what they're doing. It's tough to pair an independent developer with a large corporate concern, because that is going to be a concern. You don't want your client to be that developer's only client. But that said, there's a way to build a team. You can build teams, and there's a lot of talent here and globally.
What do you think are the biggest challenges bringing VR to the education market? You alluded that it was a bit of a
The Common Core, I think, is in the U.S. is something that's a challenge, because the schools that adopt Common Core, the lessons have to be aligned to something in the Common Core, so that's one challenge. The other challenge is just, schools are just notoriously slow. They've smaller budgets. They're notoriously slow to adopt new technology. A lot of them have adopted new technology and been burned. Like some schools have just, everyone gets an iPad and then nobody's using the iPad. So it is just going to be a slow road. But I really, that is one area that I just see is going to be revolutionary.
So who do you see out there that's doing good work in education, in VR? There's a lot of content out there, easily available anyway. I heard you talking about Scandinavian company, I think that.
Yeah, so Labster. Yeah, I mean, I think that's one great example. I think, there's a few companies out there digitizing all of the museums so that, kids in remote locations can, visit other museums. I love the idea of, virtual global classroom. I think that's a great construct on a number of levels. It allows, kids from completely different cultures to engage in sort of a project management level, but also, starts kids from a very, very young age just understanding that nuance of cultural differences and yet the similarities, and I think kind of closes the gap for a lot of people who may not even ever be able to travel to that particular country. So I think those are some, just scratching the surface of some of the great solutions out there.
We're working with VR in Wayne County with some of our underserved kids, particularly in alternative education. And there's getting to your point, the issue around just getting your foot in the door and dealing with compliance issues and rules and regs. It's a pain in the ass. But in the alternative education area, it's the kids that just don't do well in their regular high school or regular middle school, have a little more opportunity to do that. So we've been introducing VR experiences to these kids, and it's amazing to see. Not only to see what they're doing, but to see the teacher's reaction to it. I've never seen kids so engaged. And engagement is the key, and passion. But it's been really, it's really interesting and exciting to see that happen. But that's a sort of a side door into K-12.
That's exactly right. Special education is one, yeah.
And not strictly, traditional K-12.
But however we can get the data to support how well, children learn in VR and how engaging it is, let's do it. And let's talk offline. And I live in Marin. I'm happy to do whatever I can to help.
Last question?
Is he allowed to? No, I'm kidding.
I guess a primary concern, or a contextual concern around the adoption of VR is utility beyond novelty. And we're seeing a lot of questions pop up, obviously, post-Christmas, and everyone's looking at how HTC went and how Sony's going on the consumer end. Are you seeing, can you point to any solid data that's really helpful in making the case for VR around sustained use in probably beyond, I'm guessing, for instance, collaborative design is probably a strong use case. Are you seeing others where you're seeing good, strong data beyond the novelty?
Yeah, it's you're stating it much more eloquently than I do when I talk to clients. I say, we don't want to just, make this cooler. This has to be better. But I'm going to use that now. But yeah, there's little bits of data, and again, it's why I point to things like simulation and training in healthcare, where there is the data to support these, kind of new iterations and these new ideas around, how to utilize this technology. And education, again, it's such a big challenge, but, intuitively, I think we all know that, a lot of kids just can't learn by, sitting in a room and having someone tell them what they need to learn or reading a book. And so, experiential learning, makes sense. And so the goal is to, get more pilot programs, to get it into these schools in any way that we can, wherever there's budget. And there is budget a lot of times in the special education arena. And that's really how we sort of develop the data. And again, it goes back to when you're developing, look at that end-to-end solution. How do you sync up with, the middleware, and how do you collect that data to start building an ROI around whatever it is that you're building?
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, everyone.